All right, let's talk Bama LSU. T-Bob Hebert is with us with one of the great Zoom backdrops you will ever see. What is up, T-Bob? How are you today?
What's up, guys? How y'all okay? Everybody doing okay?
Yeah,
everybody's
good.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, guys. Everywhere I turn, people keep telling me, Bama's done, Bama's done. A couple losses, first time before November since 2007. I keep telling them, it's Kalen DeBoer. He's a really good coach, okay? You still got the number one recruiting class. This team is still chock full of 4 and 5 stars, right? Like, this is still a damn good team. Right? I keep telling them, and everywhere I look, people keep trying to tell me that, Bama's just mortal now, and then the end is coming. I don't know. I keep hearing things about like a Jalen Milroe that hasn't progressed like you had wanted, an offense with just a real dearth of weapons outside of Ryan Williams. I mean, not me, but other people talking about a rushing defense that ranks 13th in the SEC. Like, what? I mean, losing to Vanderbilt? I don't know. To me, it's still Alabama, right? It's still Alabama. But a lot of people right now are saying that we live in a post-Saban world now where Alabama's just like everyone else. So I don't know. I'm just checking on you guys because I'm trying to help out. I'm trying to fight the good fight and let people know Alabama's still a damn good football team.
T-Bob, here's where Alabama fans were before the season. A lot of 9-3s and a lot of 10-2s best case scenario. If Alabama wins this game on Saturday, they're going to be 10-2. They're going to go to a college football playoff. And then I think Alabama fans are going to reflect and say, damn, that was a pretty solid year one. The problem is they lost to Vanderbilt. And Vanderbilt, after that loss, people were talking about maybe the worst loss in Alabama history. And now Texas is saying their best win on the season is Vanderbilt. It's been a weird year. But I want to ask you more importantly, like, it's amazing that we're in November and we really don't know how good some of these teams are. Like, LSU lost to USC, who now has 5 losses. Like, how good is LSU? Do we even know that yet?
Well, real quick here, let's check something out. Yeah, if you win Saturday, sure, people are happy. But what happens if you lose?
Oh, disaster.
Right? Year one, Kalen DeBoer. You think all of that level-headed 9-3 talk from the preseason, you think that's going to play?
Nope.
You think this Alabama fan base that is used to existing in their marble halls at the top of the Coliseum, watching the rest of us fight for scraps, you think they're going to be appreciative of being knocked out of the playoff race with a month left in the season? I don't think so. As far as how good LSU is, it's up and down. They're flawed. It's like a lot of other college football teams this year. We've seen a great thing in college football, which is the democratization of talent. We've all talked about it. Everybody's been talking about it. It's been one of the main takeaways from this season. Thanks to the transfer portal, all of a sudden, you are not sunk if you screw up a certain position on your roster. You can find a solution. You are not, your career is not just over if you don't win a starting job at a certain point. You can go find success elsewhere, right? Like, there's a million examples you could point to. One I keep going back to is Eli Holstein. A name you all know. We know he's from Louisiana, goes to Alabama, going to be buried, probably never played in the past. Now he's leading Pitt. He's doing great. But that's all over the country, right? And so even though it's a small sample size, and who knows, maybe this ends up being the exception, not the rule, it does feel like we've entered an era of college football where there is more parity, and it dovetails perfectly with a 12-team playoff, and it makes this all very exciting. And now this Saturday night in Death Valley, we arrive at the first official playoff Thunderdome. 2 teams enter, 1 team leaves, okay? Glory to be had if you win, agony in defeat. The losing team, make no mistake, will be left in shambles. We'll have a lot to clean up. While the winning team will survive and advance and be in a driver's seat for a spot in this first inaugural 12-team playoff.
T-Bob Hebert is with us at T-Bob 53. You could also see him on Snaps. You can see him on Off the Bench there with our guy Jacob Hester as well. He is all over the place. The Snaps podcast, by the way, available everywhere you get us. Everywhere you get us. Same place. Yeah. Snaps podcast.
YouTube.com/@SnapsCFB_. Just Google SnapCFB.
There you go. SnapCFB.
Sub to the YouTube, guys. Almost at 27K. Chugging right along.
The running quarterback versus LSU. Alabama fans looked at the second half and they're like, boy, if A&M can do that to him, what could Jalen Milroe do? Was that a preparation problem or is that a scheme problem for LSU's defense versus a mobile quarterback?
The mobile quarterback question is a nuanced one, or I should say the answer is a nuanced one with LSU because we've seen examples of both this year. You were really good against Taylon Green from Arkansas. That was probably your most complete game you played in the entire season. You shut him down. You stopped the run. You forced it on him, and he made some plays with his legs, but you contained it for the most part. Lenora Sellers, though, was having a lot of success against you, against South Carolina. But granted, you end up knocking him out of the game. He doesn't get to play the second half. It's one of the main reasons why you end up surviving that South Carolina game. And then the Marcel Reed stuff was just an abject disaster. But some of the Marcel Reed success is situational in that, and I have to be painfully clear about this. My biggest takeaway from the LSU A&M game was not that LSU lost it. A&M took it from them. So do not, like anything I say, don't think that I am, just don't think that that's where my head's at. But when Marcel Reed comes in that game, he has nothing to lose and everything to gain, right? You're down 10. If you lose, who cares? It's not your fault. And you get set up with multiple 20-yard fields off of turnovers. You're a completely different quarterback than what Connor Wegman was representing. And the defense was having easily their best performance of the entire season against Wegman. And then Marcel Reed was such a change of pace. I've never seen a quarterback have such a massive impact. I mean, the defense was frozen, could not adjust. Instead, after the game, they didn't really prepare for it. And that's tough in college. You have limited time, whatever. But the point is, I can't sit here and confidently say, yeah, I expect LSU to shut down Jalen Milroe. I do think, though, it's not going to be like the Marcel Reed situation. It's not going to be like last year against Alabama where LSU was like, hey, let's just drop everybody into coverage. No one account for Milroe. And then after the game, Brian Kelly be like, I guess we should have played a spy. You've had 2 weeks. I trust Blake Baker and this defensive staff. They're going to be much better prepared for the dual threat nature of Jalen Milroe, who is, of course, probably the fastest guy on the field whenever he's on a football field.
So for T-Bob's all-time starting 11 defensive LSU Tigers, just your personal favorites, Whit Weeks, where is he coming up on that list?
No, I mean, Whit Weeks is awesome, but I mean, we're talking all-time Tiger defenders, dude.
Well, I'm not talking greatest. I'm just talking about players you like.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, you ever seen an interview with Whit Weeks? It looks like the guy stepped straight off of a Dazed and Confused. He's got this great accent. Oh, man, I'm just out there having so much fun, man. And last year, I had this long hair, and he had the mustache. He had cornrow. No, I mean, personality-wise, vibe guy-wise, awesome, playing awesome. I mean, only played a third of the snaps the first few games, and I don't know if this stat still holds, but a couple of weeks ago was leading the SEC in tackles. So he has been probably the core piece and reason why this LSU defense has shown such improvement this season. Whit Weeks is awesome, and certainly he will be used in the scheme, whether it's playing game. Maybe you stun a defensive end on the inside. Playing games where you try to basically funnel Jalen Milroe into thinking, oh, here's an open lane, and maybe Weeks is wrapping around the edge. He will factor in mightily to trying to stop Jalen Milroe.
I've seen you with a fearlessness, with a microphone in your hand, singing karaoke. If you were a quarterback, would you play quarterback like Garrett Nussmeier? Fearlessness? I mean, you just throw it anywhere. You believe you can make every throw?
What a stumbling question, Jim. What a stumbling question that was. But I do thank you for giving me my karaoke props. And where's Taylor? Bring Taylor out here.
Taylor's right, Taylor here.
Sing along, Taylor.
Against all these Crimson Tide D-bags. No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. No, to be fair, Nussmeier is fearless. And if you look at the first pick in that A&M game, It's a perfect representation of, I think you have to take the good with the bad. Because a lot of people are complaining about that. He's on the run. He throws across his body to guy that's cutting the opposite way. Defender right underneath. Like, why did you throw that? But if we think back to the first half, he had a 3rd and 15 where he's rolling out to the right and he lobs it up on the run, throws behind his body. It's short of the safety. It's a huge conversion, right? So the entire Garrett Nussmeier thing from day one is he has that natural kind of gunslinger courage. You just had to sand down the edges, and they've done a good job of that. But it is definitely reared up a couple of times. But again, the good so far outweighs the bad, especially in big time moments and big time situations. The biggest problem with last game was, guys, it was the most off schedule LSU's been all year. How's this for a stat? Of 34 first down plays, LSU gained nothing or lost yardage on 20 of the 34 first down plays. Like, that's a disastrous stat for any quarterback to try to overcome. In the second half, only 4 times did they gain more than a yard on first down. So if it felt like Nuss was pressing, it's because he was kind of being forced to. And I'm sorry, Jim, you know I love you the most out of any of y'all, so I apologize. I should not have taken that shot. You're the man.
Oh, no.
And you're beautiful.
That's the way I do my career, is stumbling. Jason Bateman stumbles through his lines, and he has an amazing acting career. I don't want to come in here and sound like I'm prepared.
Yes.
You're the Jason Bateman of Alabama radio. I've always said it, guys. Everybody knows. By the way, the Jason Bateman of Alabama radio. Big Jim.
That's not bad.
That's what I call him.
Hey, are you in the Shire? Are you on a Viking ship? What is the backdrop supposed to be?
Your first instincts, much like an SAT question, have served you correctly. This is Bag End. This is, of course, where Bilbo lives, where he gives it to his nephew Frodo, who I later think maybe bequeaths it to Sam and Rosie. I'm not sure, but yeah, I like to do every show.
Tyler says yes. He's correct on all that, Tyler? Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so T-Bob, another thing, we were talking a couple of times about this Vince McMahon documentary. You seem like you're a wrestling fan. I never watched wrestling. I think I missed out after watching that documentary on these ridiculous storylines. Are you a wrestling guy? And if so, am I wrong? Just my take from that whole documentary is The Undertaker's the greatest wrestler of all time.
So I'm not sure on the McMahon documentary. I, like everybody else, I went through heavy wrestling stages growing up. I was a massive Goldberg fan, WCW Attitude Era, Eric Bischoff, the new NWO, all that was like my peak of wrestling fandom, as well as some like the Rock, Stone Cold stuff, Dudley Boys, whatever. But I would say it is wild. Because now I get a lot of wrestling osmosis just through Twitter and general nerd culture. Like, wrestling is one of the nerd pillars, like with like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars, like whatever. Like, wrestling's always at all these conventions. It is wild how much society has changed just in Vince McMahon's lifetimes. If you look at some of the storylines that he wanted to run with or that he did run with, I mean, I believe one of the proposed storylines was him getting his own daughter pregnant.
Yep, it sure was.
Which is,
That's wild.
I mean, granted, pre-Game of Thrones, maybe he was a bit ahead of the curve, but still. Vince seems like a very powerful and very dark individual. Not someone that you would want to work for or be at odds with.
All right, he is T-Bob Hebert. Do a lot of things. Just as he said, just Google Snaps CFB, and you'll find this great show he does there, and then you can
Well, how we feeling,
subscribe.
boys? Are the Tide going to win?
Jim has picked LSU.
Okay. A little reverse psychology, smart pick.
That's what everybody always assumes with you, Jim.
I
but
like
not the
Alabama,
case.
not the
T-Bob.
case. Yeah, I like Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, I just don't like Alabama's secondary.
I'm kind of with you there. I think here's my deal in terms of actual football analysis. I think Alabama's.
See, that's a bigger shot than stumbling question, because I stumble questions all the time. But you just played the game, and I didn't, is what you just said. I gave you my opinion. You agreed with no. You agreed with my opinion, and now you're going to tell me my opinion's right because you played the game, and you're going to tell me why my opinion's right.
He did play the game.
No,
Go ahead.
that is, if that's how it sounded, that's not what I meant. I meant I've basically just been yelling nonsense at y'all for 10 minutes. I'm going to give my actual football read on the game, not anything in relation to your football read. I apologize. No, I'm in terms of how I actually view this game. I think that I think that Alabama certainly has a higher talent level overall in the roster. We can all accept that. I think that they are a slightly better team on paper, even if they are much more flawed than they've been in the past. So much of Alabama is tough to judge because they're being graded on the curve of Alabama's of the past, right? Which is a really high bar. I think that LSU is kind of maximizing what they have right now, which is where you run into that question of like, how good is LSU, right? Well, they're very young. They're overachieving in a lot of areas. And when you have those elements at play, it can lead to a inconsistent performance level, a bit of a volatile mixture. And I think that's what LSU's running into a bit here. So I think Alabama's a bit more consistent, maybe a bit better, but the Death Valley element is very hard to escape here for me. And granted, I know it's a place where traditionally Alabama, that's where all the success comes, is in Death Valley. And traditionally, for whatever reason, the only time LSU ever wins this game, it just happens to be in Tuscaloosa, save for a couple of years ago. But I mean, I saw that stadium against Ole Miss earlier this year. I see an Alabama team that's predisposed to pre-snap penalties, as well as an offensive line that, while healthier now than they've been, at times has been a real weakness in pass protection and pass, a great crowd noise helps out with that a lot. So I'm banking on good LSU showing up this weekend. I still very, very concerned about running the ball. In fact, I don't think you're going to be able to. I think you have to find ways to manufacture success on first down without Garrett Dellinger at left guard. That is a massive, massive loss. But I'm banking on good LSU showing up. I'm banking on hopefully the culture of a year 3 program versus a year 1 in transition. And I'm just hoping that Death Valley ends up being that kind of final domino that pushes LSU over the top Saturday night in Death Valley. And then we're going to be celebrating on whiskey and wine, boys.
Whiskey and wine.
Yeah.
It's a bad combination.
Have y'all ever seen the postgame show?
Oh, have we seen it? It's fantastic.
Okay,
yes.
And I like 50% of your set.
Wow.
I'm a T-Bob fan. Moscato's like mixing whiskey and wine with me.
Got to stick together.
T-Bob, thank you. Always good to see you and talk to you, my man. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game.
All right, boys. Love y'all. Have a great weekend. Here's to hoping that, y'all lose. So, cheers.
Thank you, brother. Take care. T-Bob Hebert with us. Go follow him on social media at T-Bob53. Snap CFB. That's the Google you hit there and you find a show.